Hold on!
Here goes.
Kingdom Hearts 3 is a game preoccupied with fan service and struggles to stay coherent under the weight of its own convoluted lore, but it's also everything fans love about the series, a thrilling action RPG that celebrates Disney and Pixar, all the while ensuring themes of friendship, heroism and pure-hearted goodness shine bright. At times those themes can be difficult to discern, particularly when the game is intent on telling the grander story of Kingdom Hearts, as opposed to the smaller tale centered around Disney's iconic characters or Sora's innocent idealism. Given that it's the concluding chapter in a massive story arc, it can't be faulted for having this fixation, but the execution is frustrating nonetheless. Kingdom Hearts 3 is bogged down in the finer details of its lore, so much so that for all but the most clued in fans, it can be difficult to get a sense of what our three main heroes are actually trying to accomplish. At its broadest, the story of Kingdom Hearts 3 involves Sora, Donald and Goofy preparing for an upcoming war against the forces of darkness by gathering the Guardians of Light. This is oversimplification to its most extreme, but to delve into the finer details would require lengthy explanations of numerous confounding concepts and characters. It is undoubtedly messy, but for fans who have committed to playing all the games and been studious enough to join the dots along the way, it makes sense. For those that aren't as well versed in Kingdom Hearts, the essentials of the story aren't laid out nearly as clear as they need to be. The writing largely makes proceedings even harder to follow. The villains in particular, many of which are members of Organization 13, spout inane lines that are purposefully vague. Presumably this was to build mystery, but it only serves to muddy motivations and further obscure the crux of the story. Otherwise, they're delivering cheesy dialogue that feels at odds with the sincere melodrama happening around them. This is a shame because at its core, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a heartfelt tale of enduring friendship, and the narrative is at its strongest when it narrows its focus to just this. Sora, Donald and Goofy are an endearing trio. Their adventures through the Disney and Pixar worlds, as well as the interactions they have with the characters within them, are a reminder that beneath the torturous lore are smaller stories that resonate. By keeping the bigger Keyblade war in the periphery and having minimal involvement from all those involved with it, these stories are clearer and more concise. The underlying themes of Kingdom Hearts harmonize with those of Disney's own property so well that each new world that Sora journeys to delivers an impactful moment of storytelling. Admittedly, some of the stories retread old grounds from the movies, but whether it's Tangled, Pirates of the Caribbean, Winnie the Pooh, Monsters Inc. or Hercules, experiencing them again through the lens of Kingdom Hearts 3 still packs an emotional punch. It's hard not to get swept up in the exaggerated displays of heroics, or earnest reminders that your friends exist in your heart.
Too slow. Go get him!
One of the strengths of Kingdom Hearts 3 is the care and attention it pays to bringing Disney's worlds to life, which in turn makes being in them all the more exciting. You get to wander around Andy's bedroom as a diminutive toy version of Sora, scaling his walls and jumping on his toys before making a trip to the mall. Venture into the Pirates of the Caribbean world and the game adopts a striking realistic visual style and gives you command of your own ship with Jack Sparrow at your side. San Francisco makes great use of verticality and Sora's ability to effortlessly run up buildings and glide between rooftops, while Monsteropolis has you working with Sully and Mike to stop Randall seizing control of Monsters Inc., and all the while Boo adorably potters around next to you. Many of the worlds offer extra gameplay activities to engage with after the story within them is wrapped up. Toy Box puts you in a mech and tasks you with destroying enemies and chasing high scores. Twilight Town has a cooking minigame which involves collecting ingredients and bringing them to Ratatouille's Remy to make meals of. Pirates of the Caribbean lets you sail the open sea, or defend Port Royale in a wave-based minigame. The amount of gameplay in Kingdom Hearts 3 is impressive, and although the extras may be short-term distractions, for those who want to spend more time in their favourite worlds, they're a fun reason to make the return trip. Not all worlds maintain that high bar, as some feel either empty or lacking in what they offer. Arendelle's snow-covered terrain, for example, feels quite bland, and the main mission involves climbing a mountain multiple times. Port Royale is an entire location used primarily for an item hunt. Toy Box's mall is devoid of life beyond the toys and enemies. It would have been nice to have people around to make it feel more alive, instead of like an after-hours shopping center. The same can be said of San Francisco, which on ground level feels eerily deserted for a metropolis. The bulk of Kingdom Hearts 3's gameplay, however, is in its sword-swinging, magic-conjuring combat, which feels fast, frenetic, and spectacular in its cinematic flourishes. Its most striking feature is its fluidity. Sora moves between enemies quickly, delivering a barrage of attacks, seamlessly transitioning into casting spells. There's a pleasing sense of forward momentum to all the battles, as you zip around dispatching enemies in quick succession. There are numerous layers on top of the basic combat mechanics which, while not adding a great deal of depth or strategic considerations, make for more exciting skirmishes. Keyblades now come in a variety of flavors, and have form changes which transform them into more over-the-top versions, where more powerful attacks and abilities become available. Magic works similarly, with repeated use of a spell eventually making a grand magic version available at no additional mana cost. Throughout, Donald and Goofy will call to Sora for a team-up attack. These are characters that have fought many battles side by side, so having these back and forths and combination attacks are a nice representation of the camaraderie between them and their growth across the series. Feeding into the Disney milieu further are attractions such as teacups, water rafts, bumper cars, and a roller coaster that can be summoned to dish out damage. Each one controls differently, either through timed button presses, using the analog stick to guide their path, or becoming a first-person shooter to pinpoint specific enemies. They all inject a different style of combat gameplay into the action at regular intervals. Other Disney characters such as Simba, Stitch, and Ariel can be called into battle, functioning similarly to Final Fantasy summons to unleash devastating special attacks. Their inclusion is welcome in lieu of giving them their own worlds, as some had in past games. Beyond that, there's flow motion, which builds a sense of speed by encouraging you to dash into objects in the environment to swing around, or at walls to parkour along. It can be tricky to get a handle of, but once you're able to work these moves into the flow of combat, you build a sense of prowess over the battlefield. Watching the battles unfold, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the combat is a complicated dance of fingers across buttons, but Kingdom Hearts 3 is simple to play, which works in its favour. It prioritizes spectacle above all else and delivers tremendously. That's not to say it's completely devoid of strategic considerations, but you'll need to play on the harder Proud difficulty if you want the game to challenge you. Otherwise, barring a few endgame bosses, the enemies are pushovers.
You won't stop a true hero! Take this!
Another feature that makes its return from Kingdom Hearts of old is the Gummi Ship. While Gummi Ship segments in the past were on rails, this time you have full freedom to fly wherever you please. Space is littered with treasures to find, but you'll often have to battle enemies to acquire them. The shooting in the Gummi Ship segments, while serviceable, isn't satisfying. The combination of lackluster visual and auditory feedback makes it hard to tell whether you're actually doing any damage, and for the most part I found myself absent-mindedly holding the fire button and waiting for things to explode. As the game reaches its conclusion, the balance shifts heavily in favour of non-Disney worlds, where the main story of Kingdom Hearts can play out and resolve itself. Many of the environments this happens in are striking, from pristine white cities to strange modular arenas that can be turned upside down at the whim of an enemy. But in these locales, the game trades the heart and whimsy of the worlds up until that point for heavy-handed storytelling that inevitably culminates in battles that are cheap and spammy to play. The payoff, meanwhile, isn't entirely worth it, as Kingdom Hearts 3 wraps up its story in an incredibly unfulfilling way. But the story of Keyblade wars, time-traveling villains, body-hopping also-rans, and world-ending darkness isn't what I'll remember about Kingdom Hearts 3, or the series as a whole. What sticks with me is the exciting battle against an elemental titan with Hercules, taking Rapunzel out into the unfamiliar wide world for the first time, snapping selfies with Winnie the Pooh, and going toe-to-toe with Davy Jones. In 2002, as Sora, I left Destiny Islands to travel across the universe and make new friends. In 2019, I brought old ones home, and I had so much fun doing it.
Just keep at it, and I know you'll be stronger than ever.
Yeah, I might even end up stronger than you are.
There he goes again.